Welcome to True Crime Cases, where we delve into the darkest corners of human nature. Today's episode unravels a tale of groom vanishes on wedding night, shocking confession from the maid of honor. On the evening of September 22, 2023, Benjamin Hawthorne, 34, and Catherine Ellis, 31, exchanged vows in a lavish ceremony at the historic Biltmore estate. The couple had been together for 7 years, having met during their postgraduate studies at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Benjamin, a successful environmental lawyer, and Catherine, pediatric surgeon, were the picture of a perfect couple, admired by friends and family alike for their dedication to each other and their respective careers. The wedding was a grand affair, with over 250 guests in attendance. The bride looked radiant in her custom-designed gown, while the groom cut a dashing figure in his tailored tuxedo. Among the bridal party was Charlotte Emerson, 32, Catherine's best friend since childhood and the maid of honor. Charlotte, a local art gallery owner, had been instrumental in planning the wedding and stood proudly by Catherine's side throughout the ceremony. As the night wore on and the celebration continued, guests noticed that the newlyweds seemed to be having the time of their lives. They danced, laughed, and mingled with their loved ones, showing no signs of the tragedy that was about to unfold. At around 11:45 p.m., Benjamin excused himself, telling Catherine he needed some fresh air. She thought nothing of it, assuming he would return shortly. However, as the clock struck midnight and the party began to wind down, there was still no sign of Benjamin. Initially, Catherine wasn't overly concerned. She thought perhaps Benjamin had indulged in too much champagne and was sleeping it off somewhere in the sprawling estate. However, as the hours ticked by and a thorough search of the premises yielded no results, panic began to set in. By 3:30 a.m., with Benjamin still nowhere to be found, Catherine made the difficult decision to contact the authorities. Detective Marcus Reynolds of the Asheville Police Department was assigned to the case. A seasoned investigator with 20 years of experience, Detective Reynolds had seen his fair share of strange cases. But the disappearance of a groom on his wedding night was a first. He arrived at the Biltmore estate in the early hours of September 23rd, accompanied by his partner, Detective Sarah Chen. The detectives began their investigation by interviewing Catherine and the wedding guests, who were still present. Catherine, still in her wedding dress, was distraught and barely able to speak coherently. Charlotte Emerson stood by her side, offering comfort and answering questions on her behalf when necessary. The maid of honor appeared composed, almost eerily so, given the circumstances. This didn't escape Detective Reynolds' notice, but he attributed it to shock and Charlotte's desire to be strong for her friend. As the sun rose over Asheville, casting a golden glow on the majestic Blue Ridge Mountains, the search for Benjamin Hawthorne intensified. Local law enforcement, aided by volunteers from the community, combed the grounds of the Biltmore estate and the surrounding area. Search and rescue teams scoured the nearby forests, while drones equipped with thermal imaging cameras scanned the vast property. Despite their efforts, no trace of the missing groom was found. In the days that followed, the disappearance of Benjamin Hawthorne became national news. Media outlets descended upon Asheville, turning the quiet mountain town into a circus of reporters, camera crews, and curious onlookers. Catherine Ellis, still reeling from the shock of losing her new husband, retreated from public view, relying on Charlotte Emerson to act as her spokesperson and shield her from the media frenzy. Detective Reynolds and his team worked tirelessly, following every lead and exploring every possibility. They delved into Benjamin's background, examining his financial records, phone logs, and social media accounts. On the surface, Benjamin Hawthorne appeared to be a model citizen with a successful career and a loving relationship. However, as the investigation progressed, cracks began to appear in this perfect facade. It emerged that Benjamin had been under considerable stress in the months leading up to the wedding. His colleagues at the law firm where he worked reported that he had seemed distracted and on edge. There were whispers of a major environmental case that had taken an unexpected turn, potentially jeopardizing Benjamin's reputation and career. Could this professional pressure have led Benjamin to flee on his wedding night? Another avenue of investigation led the detectives to explore Benjamin's past relationship. They discovered that he had been briefly engaged once before, to a woman named Rachel Winters. The engagement had ended abruptly 4 years ago, with Rachel moving out of state shortly after. When contacted by the police, Rachel was reluctant to discuss her relationship with Benjamin, but hinted that there were aspects of his personality that had concerned her. As weeks turned into months, the case of the vanishing groom continued to baffle investigators and captivate the public. Theories ranged from the plausible to the outlandish. Some believed Benjamin had suffered from a bout of cold feet and run away, while others speculated about foul play or even alien abduction. The lack of any physical evidence or witnesses who had seen Benjamin after he left the reception only added to the mystery. Throughout this time, Catherine Ellis remained in seclusion, emerging only for brief statements to the press, pleading for information about her husband's whereabouts. Charlotte Emerson continued to be a constant presence at her side, managing Catherine's affairs and acting as a buffer between her and the outside world. The bond between the two women seemed to grow stronger in the face of adversity, with Charlotte often spending nights at Catherine's home to provide support and companionship. 6 months after Benjamin's disappearance, just as the investigation was beginning to go cold, breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Detective Reynolds received an anonymous tip suggesting that he'd take a closer look at Charlotte Emerson's alibi for the night of the wedding. The caller, whose voice was disguised, hinted that Charlotte knew more about Benjamin's disappearance than she had let on. Intrigued by this new lead, Detective Reynolds began to scrutinize Charlotte's movements on the night of September 22nd. He discovered that there was a period of about 50 minutes, shortly after Benjamin was last seen, when Charlotte's whereabouts were unaccounted for. When questioned about this, Charlotte became defensive and evasive, a stark contrast to her previously cooperative demeanor. As the detectives dug deeper, they uncovered a web of secrets that would shock the community of Asheville to its core. Bank records revealed that large sums of money had been transferred from Benjamin's accounts to an offshore bank in the Cayman Islands in the weeks leading up to the wedding. The account was registered to a shell company, which, after extensive investigation, was traced back to Charlotte Emerson. Armed with this information, Detective Reynolds brought Charlotte in for questioning. Under intense interrogation, Charlotte's calm facade finally cracked. In a shocking confession, she revealed the truth behind Benjamin Hawthorne's disappearance. Charlotte admitted that she and Benjamin had been involved in a secret affair for over 2 years. They had met through Catherine and had initially bonded over their shared interests in environmental causes and art. What started as friendship soon blossomed into a passionate romance, conducted behind Catherine's back. Charlotte claimed that Benjamin had promised to leave Catherine for her, but as the wedding day approached, he had gotten cold feet about their plan. On the night of the wedding, after Benjamin stepped out for air, Charlotte had followed him. They had argued bitterly, with Charlotte demanding that Benjamin follow through on his promise to run away with her. In a fit of rage and desperation, Charlotte had struck Benjamin with a heavy decorative sculpture from the garden. To her horror, the blow had killed him instantly. Panicked and realizing the magnitude of what she had done, Charlotte had hastily hidden Benjamin's body in the trunk of her car. After the search for Benjamin began, she had driven to a remote area of the Pisgah National Forest and buried his body in a shallow grave. The money transfers, she claimed, were part of their original plan to start a new life together. Confession sent shockwaves through Asheville and beyond. Catherine Ellis, upon learning the truth, was devastated and knew. Grappling with the dual betrayal by her husband and her best friend, the community, which had rallied around Catherine in her time of need, now struggled to come to terms with the tragic and sordid reality behind the disappearance that had captivated them for months. Charlotte Emerson was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and obstruction of justice. The case never went to trial, as Charlotte accepted a plea deal in exchange for revealing the location of Benjamin's body. She was sentenced to 25 years in prison, a punishment that many in the community felt was too lenient, given the nature of her crimes. The recovery of Benjamin's remains brought a grim sense of closure to the case. Funeral was held, attended by hundreds of mourners who had followed the case of the vanishing groom. Catherine, supported by her family and the community, began the long and painful process of healing and moving on with her life. In the aftermath of the tragedy, Asheville was left to grapple with the knowledge that such darkness could exist in their midst. The case of Benjamin Hawthorne's disappearance and Charlotte Emerson's shocking confession would be remembered for years to come. A cautionary tale about the destructive power of secrets and betrayal. The historic Biltmore estate, once a symbol of romance and celebration, now stood as a somber reminder of the events that had unfolded on that fateful September night. The management considered closing the venue to weddings, fearing that its reputation had been irreparably tarnished. However, in a show of resilience, the community rallied around the iconic landmark, refusing to let one tragic event overshadow decades of happy memory. As time passed, life in Asheville slowly returned to normal. The media circus packed up and left. Curious onlookers found new subjects for their gossip, and the intense scrutiny that had been focused on the town began to fade. Yet, for those closely involved in the case, the scars remained. Detective Marcus Reynolds, haunted by the case that had consumed 6 months of his life, found himself questioning his initial assumptions and investigative techniques. The experience had taught him valuable lessons about looking beyond the obvious and trusting his instinct. He vowed to apply these lessons to future cases, determined to become an even more effective investigator. Catherine Ellis, the bride whose fairy tale had turned into a nightmare, struggled to rebuild her life in the wake of the tragedy. The betrayal by both her husband and her best friend had left deep emotional wounds that would take years to heal. With the support of a therapist and a close-knit group of friends who had stood by her throughout the ordeal, Catherine slowly began to regain her footing. In an unexpected turn of events, Catherine found solace in advocacy work. She started a support group for victims of infidelity and betrayal, using her own painful experience to help others navigate similar traumas. Her strength and resilience in the face of such devastating circumstances inspired many, and she became a respected voice in the community on issues of healing and forgiveness. The families of both Benjamin Hawthorne and Charlotte Emerson were not spared from the fallout of the tragedy. Benjamin's parents, Robert and Catherine Hawthorne, were left to grapple with the complex emotions of grieving for a son who had been unfaithful and whose actions had contributed to his own demise. They struggled with feelings of anger, guilt, and profound sadness, often questioning if they could have done anything to prevent the tragic turn of events. Charlotte's family, the Emersons, became social pariahs in Asheville. Her parents, once respected members of the community, found themselves shunned by former friends and colleagues. They sold their home and moved away, unable to bear the weight of their daughter's actions and the constant reminders of the pain she had caused. The case also had far-reaching implications for the local law enforcement and judicial system. Questions were raised about how Charlotte had managed to conceal her crime for so long, leading to a review of investigative procedures in missing persons cases. The plea deal that had spared Charlotte a life sentence was criticized by many who felt that justice had not been fully served. In response to the public outcry, local lawmakers proposed new legislation, dubbed Benjamin's Law, which would impose stricter sentences for crimes involving betrayal of trust. While the law faced challenges and debates, its proposals sparked important conversations about justice, punishment, and the nature of personal relationships. The case of the vanishing groom and the maid of honor's confession became the subject of numerous books, documentaries, and even a Hollywood film. Each new iteration of the case brought fresh waves of attention to Asheville, much to the dismay of residents who wished to move on from the tragedy. 5 years after the events of that fateful wedding night, Asheville had changed. The innocence of the mountain town had been shattered, replaced by a wary awareness that even in the most idyllic settings, darkness could lurk just beneath the surface. Yet, there was also a newfound sense of community solidarity, forged in the crucible of shared trauma and recovery. Catherine Ellis, now running a successful non-profit organization dedicated to helping victims of trauma, had found a new purpose in life. While she had not remarried, she had formed deep and meaningful friendships that helped fill the void left by her loss. On the anniversary of what would have been her 5th wedding anniversary, Catherine visited Benjamin's grave for the first time since his funeral. She left a single white rose, a symbol of the love they had once shared, and the peace she had finally begun to find. Charlotte Emerson, serving her sentence in a state penitentiary, had become a model prisoner. She participated in rehabilitation programs and expressed deep remorse for her actions. Whether this change of heart was genuine or merely a ploy for early release was a subject of much debate among those who followed the case. Detective Marcus Reynolds, promoted to captain of the Asheville Police Department, often used the Hawthorne case as a teaching tool for new recruits. He emphasized the importance of thoroughness, the danger of assumptions, and the complex human elements that often lay at the heart of criminal investigations. As for the Biltmore estate, the historic venue had rebounded from the tragedy. After a brief closure and renovation, it reopened with a renewed commitment to creating joyful memories for couples. In a poignant twist, the garden where Benjamin had last been seen alive was transformed into a memorial garden dedicated to all those who had lost loved ones under tragic circumstance. The case of the vanishing groom had left an indelible mark on Asheville and all those involved. It served as a stark reminder of the fragility of trust, the devastating consequences of betrayal, and the resilience of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable loss. The case of Benjamin Hawthorne, Catherine Ellis, and Charlotte Emerson would be remembered not just as a sensational crime, but as a complex human tragedy that had tested the limits of love, friendship, and forgiveness. As the years passed, the case of that fateful September night became part of Asheville's lore, whispered about by locals and recounted to curious visitors. It served as a cautionary tale, a reminder that even in the most picture-perfect settings, darkness can lurk just beneath the surface. But it also became a case of resilience, the community that had faced tragedy and emerged stronger, more compassionate, and more united. The legacy of the case extended far beyond the boundaries of Asheville. It sparked national conversations about the nature of love, trust, and betrayal in the modern age. Relationship experts cited the case in discussions about the importance of open communication and honesty in partnerships. Legal scholars debated the implications of Charlotte's plea deal and the broader issues of justice in crimes of passion. In an unexpected development, the case also led to advancements in forensic science. The challenges faced by investigators in recovering and identifying Benjamin's remains after months of exposure to the elements prompted research into new techniques for analyzing degraded DNA and trace evidence. These advancements would go on to help solve other cold cases across the country. As the 10th anniversary of Benjamin's disappearance approached, Asheville prepared for a somber commemoration. The event, organized by Catherine's nonprofit organization, aimed to honor Benjamin's memory while also celebrating the community's journey of healing and growth. It was a testament to the town's resilience and its determination to find light even in the darkest of circumstances. The case of the vanishing groom and the maid of honor's confession would forever be a part of Asheville's history, complex tapestry of love, betrayal, loss, and redemption. It served as a reminder that behind every sensational headline lies a deeply human case, full of pain, regret, and the endless capacity for both darkness and light resides within us all. In the years following the tragedy, Asheville became a case study for criminologists and sociologists who sought to understand the factors that could lead to such a shocking crime in a seemingly idyllic community. The case highlighted the often overlooked issue of domestic violence and betrayal among the upper middle class, challenging stereotypes about who can be a victim or perpetrator of such crime. The impact of the case on the local tourism industry was significant. Asheville, known for its stunning mountain views, vibrant art scene, and the historic Biltmore estate, saw a temporary decline in visitors as the town became associated with the tragic event. However, over time, the community's resilience and the thoughtful way they handled the aftermath of the tragedy began to draw a different kind of visitor. those interested in true crime and the human stories behind sensational headline. Local tour guides incorporated the case into their narratives, weaving it into the rich tapestry of Asheville's history. They emphasized not just the shocking crime, but the way the community came together in its wake, highlighting the town's strength and unity. This approach helped to transform a potential liability into a unique aspect, Asheville's identity. The case also had a profound impact on wedding industry practices, not just in Asheville, but across the country. Wedding planners and venue managers began implementing more stringent security measures and emergency protocol. Background checks for key wedding personnel became more common, and many venues started offering counseling services to couples in the lead-up to their big day, recognizing the intense emotional and psychological pressure that often accompanies weddings. In the realm of law enforcement, the Hawthorne case led to significant changes in how missing persons cases were handled. The Asheville Police Department, under the leadership of Captain Marcus Reynolds, developed new protocols for investigating disappearances, particularly those occurring under unusual circumstances. These protocols, which emphasized rapid response, thorough evidence collection, and consideration of less obvious scenarios, were adopted by police departments across North Carolina and beyond. The mental health implications of the case were far-reaching. Psychologists and counselors in Asheville reported a surge in clients seeking help for trust issues, relationship anxiety, and trauma related to betrayal. This led to the establishment of several specialized therapy programs in the area, focusing on healing from infidelity and rebuilding trust after severe breaches in relationship. Catherine Ellis's journey from victim to advocate became a source of inspiration for many. Her nonprofit organization expanded its reach, offering support groups, counseling services, and educational programs not just in Asheville, but in cities across the country. Catherine became a sought-after speaker, sharing her case of resilience and recovery at conferences and universities nationwide. The legal ramifications of the case continued to unfold years after the initial verdict. Charlotte Emerson's plea deal became a topic of heated debate in legal circles, leading to a review of sentencing guidelines for crimes involving betrayal of trust. Some argued that the emotional devastation caused by such betrayals warranted harsher sentences, while others cautioned against allowing public outrage to influence the justice system unduly. In an unexpected turn of events, 5 years into her sentence, Charlotte Emerson petitioned for a retrial, claiming that new evidence had come to light. This development reignited public interest in the case and forced the community to confront the painful memories they had worked so hard to move past. The petition was ultimately denied, but it served as a reminder that the effects of the tragedy continued to ripple through the lives of all involved. The Biltmore estate, which had been the scene of the fateful wedding, took steps to reclaim its image as a place of beauty and celebration. In addition to the memorial garden, they established an annual event dedicated to renewing wedding vows, symbolizing the enduring nature of love and commitment, even in the face of adversity. This event became hugely popular, drawing couples from across the country who sought to reaffirm their bonds in a place that had witnessed both great joy and profound tragedy. The media's role in the case and its aftermath became a subject of study in journalism schools. The intense coverage had both positive and negative effects. While it helped to keep the case in the public eye and potentially aided in the investigation, it also put immense pressure on those involved, and at times sensationalized the tragedy. This led to discussions about ethical reporting practices and the responsibilities of the media in covering sensitive cases. As the years passed, Ace of Benjamin Hawthorne's disappearance and Charlotte Emerson's confession became intertwined with Asheville's identity. It was a dark chapter in the town's history, but one that ultimately showcased the community's strength, compassion, and resilience. Visitors to Asheville would often hear the tale, told not with sensationalism, but with a sense of somber reflection and a focus on the healing that followed. The case also had a lasting impact on popular culture. In addition to the books and documentaries, it inspired a critically acclaimed play that explored themes of love, betrayal, and the masks people wear in their daily lives. The play, which premiered in Asheville before moving to Broadway, was praised for its nuanced portrayal of the complex emotions and motivations behind the tragic events. In the end, the case of the vanishing groom became more than just a tale of crime and punishment. It was a deeply human case that touched on universal themes of love, trust, betrayal, and redemption. It forced people to confront uncomfortable truths about the nature of relationships and the capacity for darkness that exists within seemingly ordinary individuals. As Asheville moved forward, the memory of Benjamin Hawthorne, Catherine Ellis, and Charlotte Emerson remained a part of the town's collective consciousness. Their case served as a reminder of the fragility of human relationships and the importance of honesty, trust, and forgiveness. It was a tragedy that had forever changed the fabric of the community, but also one that had revealed its strength and resilience in the face of unimaginable circumstance. The case of the vanishing groom and the maid of honor's confession would be remembered not just as a sensational crime, but as a turning point in Asheville's history. A moment that tested the community's bonds and ultimately strengthened them. It was a case of loss and betrayal, but also one of healing and hope. Testament to the enduring spirit of a town that had faced darkness and emerged into the light. Thank you for watching this case. If you found it interesting, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends. Feel free to leave your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next exciting videos. See you in the next one.